Welcome back, everybody. We are live for another edition of Cage My IQ. This week, we're going to be doing our four-card breakdown for UFC Vegas 58, which is headlined by a top 10 lightweight bout between Armand Sarukian versus Matus Gamrot. As always, I'm your host, Cage, and as always, with me is my co-host, Jim. How are you doing today, Jim?
What's up, man? I'm excited for this card. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
Exactly. But before we get into any of that, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, High Tide Herbal. If you don't know who High Tide Herbal is, we're running a promo with them. Promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout of www. Yeah, hightideherbal.com. Put the promo code in and receive 10% off your next purchase. But if you don't know who they are, check out the video right now.
Offering high-quality, sustainable products with all-natural, lab-tested ingredients, it's High Tide Herbal's mission to help others live the longest, healthiest, and most productive lives possible. Their hemp-derived CBD products have a wide variety of uses, from helping sore muscles to skin hydration and minimizing skin irritation. They generate results based on your specific needs. Elevate your lifestyle with the new wave of wellness. Visit hightideherbal.com to learn more.
Once again, that's High Tide Herbal. Check out the ticker down below. We got the promo code CageMyIQ10 to receive 10% off your next purchase on their website. Let's move on to another thing on the agenda. We have a Cash App open now. I tell you guys, it's $DanielBakley. If you wish to support the show, donate any amount of money you want. We put a lot of work into the network to bring out the previews, the recaps, the interviews, and any information on the world of MMA. Any amount of donation is much appreciated to the network. So once again, Cash App, $Daniel Bakley. And then, of course, we are Cage My IQ. If you guys want to follow us, we are on social media, so follow and subscribe to us on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. You're watching this video on YouTube right now. All you got to do is, if you haven't done so already, and this is your first time on the network, just hit this subscribe button down below. Also, hit the notification bell, because then whenever we put anything out, you guys are the first to receive it. And then, of course, please do us a favor, smash the like button down below so we can get the interactions up on the network. We're doing this all for you guys. So if you guys can smash the like button down below and give us a comment in the comment section, let us know who you think's going to win this week. What are your thoughts on sleepers or on locks for this week, betting wise, and just give us your input, and we're give you guys a comment back or a like on your post. We're always interested in talking to the fans. But other than that, we'll get started with the 13 bout preview for you guys. This is going to be taking place on Saturday. It's going to be a 13 fight card. It starts at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, the 7 p.m. will be the main card start. So it's going to be like a normal fight night. Last week was an earlier time for us. So now we're back to the later time of things. So it'll be nice to see these bouts that are in the morning, of course. But let's get started with the first fight on the prelims. We got a men's flyweight matchup between Tagir Ulanbekov. He's going up against Tyson Nam. What are your thoughts on this fight, Jim? And then who do you have winning?
Well, with this matchup, I'm going to go with Tagir Ulanbekov. This is a tough matchup for Tyson Nam. He's the much older fighter in this one, but Tagir comes from the Khabib camp and has world-class combo sambo, which is going to be the difference maker. We talk about that entire camp, I feel like, every single fight, and I think we're probably going to talk about it like 2 or 3 times on this card. And we know how important and how strong and dangerous the sambo background is to those guys in that camp. And Tagir really shines with that. I see Tagir getting the fight to the ground, controlling the fight from there, and getting the decision win over Tyson Nam.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle of grappling versus striking because Tagir is very strong with his grappling, not so much with his striking. His striking is just used to get him inside to go for the takedowns. He's done well with the grappling, but what's lost in the past couple fights has been his striking. Tim Elliott was able to beat him because he was able to outstrike him and defend a little bit of those takedowns, and then that's what cost him the fight there. But then on the flip side, you have Tyson Nam, who has a very powerful hands. He's very picky with the striking. He has good movement. He knows how to move around. He picks his shots when he hits you. His problem has just been just volume. He doesn't put in a lot of volume in his fight, so when he hits you, it's very effective. It's just that he's not hitting you enough to where if he doesn't knock you out, more than likely you can just out-volume him. So that's why this matchup is very interesting as one of the first fights on the prelim. And I'm going to piggyback on you. I'm going to go to Tagir with this one because I feel like he can take down Nam. Nam hasn't fought a guy who can wrestle to the ability of Tagir Nordenbecky, where he's just going to keep on hounding you for the takedown because the striking's not going to be an issue. So you might see Tyson Nam take a little bit more chances on the feet with his striking, which is going to leave him open for if he overextends himself. And then that's when Nordenbecky will take him down and kind of just use the control time to steal each round. So I think Tagir takes round 1 and 2. And then I think Nam goes for broke round 3. He might get close to knocking out Tagir, but I still have Tagir winning by decision.
Yeah, this is one of the kind of the precursor or the tagline to this fight card. You're going to see a lot of wrestling. Like you're going to see a lot of wrestling in this one. So if you're not a big wrestling fan, this might not be the card for you. But if you like technical wrestling and people of multiple disciplines going up against each other, this is the spot.
Yep, but let's move on to the next fight on the prelims. We have a women's strawweight matchup featuring Jinh Yu Frey going up against Vanessa Demopoulos. This is actually there's been a little background to this one. And Jinh Yu Frey not long ago has moved down to the division, and Vanessa Demopoulos has been telling her that she's made a bad move going down to her division, and she better watch out because she's going to come and take this fight serious and get the victory. But you got Jinh Yu Frey going up against Vanessa Little Monster Demopoulos. What are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Well, I don't understand how this is Vanessa Demopoulos' division. She has one fight in the UFC, albeit a win, but she only has one fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand she's trying to get the word out there. But with this one, I think it could honestly go either way. I'm curious to see Jinh Yu Frey at a new division. Honestly, to me, it all comes down to which fighter is going to show up. Frey, as you know, is a streaky fighter where she can pour on a ton of volume, but then she takes her foot off the pedal and comes out and can come out slow. The same can be said about Demopoulos, but she's really good on the ground, good at locking in arm bars. She's been practicing more grappling tournaments, in between fights. I really think this comes down to who's going to be the more active fighter in this one, to be honest with you. Frey has really good takedowns, but like I said, Demopoulos is really good at getting the submission. So I'm going to go with the newbie in the decision. I'm going with division. I'm going with Jinh Yu Frey, and I think it's going to be a split decision. That's how close I think this one's going to be.
Yeah, Jinh Yu Frey, she has really good wrestling, and she just doesn't use it too much. Since joining the UFC, she primarily uses her high volume striking, where she uses the overhand strike. She tries to get the jab going. She does like to push you up against the cage and clinch you up, but I think this is the time where she needs to incorporate the wrestling into it because she's fighting a grappler in Vanessa Demopoulos, who's a world-class jiu-jitsu artist. And you saw in the last fight against Silvana, who a couple weeks ago just knocked out Li Nang. just like that. She has power in her hand. She's one of the strongest and most powerful women in the strawweight division. And Denopoulos took a shot from her, got knocked down, recovered, but then submitted her with the armbar out of nowhere because she has great transitions even on her back. So, yeah, I could see a scenario where a Junior Frey decides she wants to just stand up and trade, but even then, Vanessa Denopoulos has really good striking too. It's just that it's not to the level of her grappling. Like she can throw hard, she can throw combinations, and she can rack up a little bit of volume like she's done in the past. She has won the LFA championship or in the past. She's actually she beat Sam Hughes in the title bout to keep the belt. So she has far good competition that is similar to Jinyu Frey. It's just that I think Jinyu Frey's path of victory would be to wrestle and ground and pound her a little bit, because if she just stands up and trades, she tends to, like you said, take a little bit of time off. She does the first round strong, but then it's like she comes out slow round 2 and 3, which in the past 2 fights has been her Achilles heel, where she's barely won a fight because she took her pedal off the gas and allowed her opponent to get into it. And you don't want to let Vanessa get going with her striking, because then she can become a more complete fighter with her grappling.
Yeah.
But what I see happening is I see the first round, I see Junior Ray comes on strong with her striking. I actually feel like Vanessa Denopoulos is going to pull guard and just drop down and allow her to take the top. And I see her winning by a second round submission. I think she sees what Junior Frey does in the first round. She kind of assesses the scenario, and then she'll drop guard in the second, and then it goes and gets the armbar again. I think that's her go-to move. Her transitions are great, and I don't think Junior Frey's going to expect it to happen like that. I think she thinks that Vanessa's just going to stand up and trade with her, and then if she gets knocked down, or if Vanessa tries to trip her, then she'll worry about the grappling then. But I don't think she's going to think that she's going to drop guard at all.
Yeah, this is like the fourth out of like 5 fights that Frey's been matched up with a grappler. It was Yoder before this, then it was DePaula, and then Kay Hansen in her debut. So I think she's probably been training more on her, her get-ups and her takedown defense. If she goes into guard if she goes the route that you're going, if she goes right into Vanessa's guard, that's probably the worst decision anybody could make. You don't go into the guard of somebody with great transitions in BJJ. So if she does that, I don't think I'll ever pick her again. Like if she voluntarily goes into guard, but I see Jinyu Frey being more calculated in this one.
Well, I think Vanessa's going to drop down into guard.
No, I know that. Yeah. But with the IQ of a wrestler, your first start is to jump on top of it. Yeah, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Not in this case, because we just talked about it. So we'll see. I hope this stays standing, but I think Frey is going to be a little more calculated, come in with a better fight IQ, and not take the foot off the pedal this one.
I like this because we both picked 2 different people with 2 different opinions. I really like that. We'll see what happens. That's going to be a fight that I'm going to remember when we watch it,
right.
And then to see what really happens. But let's move on to the next fight. We got a men's matchup between Mario Batista versus Brian Boom Kelleher. It's going to be contested at bantamweight. Like I said before, Batista and then Boom Kelleher. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, so I think that this is an interesting fight. Like you said, Kelleher is dropping down in weight, which is something to keep an eye out after his last 2 fights were at featherweight. And he was 1-1, but he looked pretty good, and he looks pretty good at both the divisions that he fights in. But Batista's coming off a big decision win. This one really is interesting because both pack power and have good takedowns and ground control, so they're pretty evenly matched, in my opinion. What separates the two is volume, and currently that favors Batista. which leads me to lean towards Mario Batista winning by decision. Brian Kelleher has made a career for himself with that one punch lights out knockout. And it can come out of nowhere. But I think with this one, he's going to have to be a little more calculated and not put himself in bad position. So again, I'm going Mario Batista by decision.
Yeah, and one of his best things that he uses is his wrestling. He can come in there, wrestle with you, and then he adds in the knockout power. That's why his nickname is Boom, because it can come out of nowhere. But on the flip side, he's been known to get knocked out as well. His chin hasn't been that great in the last couple of years. He either knocks you out or he gets knocked out, and then when he wrestles, that's when he's at his best, in my opinion, because he's had fights where he can get 3, 4, 5 takedowns. That's his bread and butter. But then you got Mario Batista, who has really good striking. He has the jab, the overhand. He has a really sharp hook strike that he throws. He can use his legs. He has a nice calf kick. He attacks the body. And then he sneaks in those takedowns out of nowhere. Like he averages 1 to 2 takedowns a fight. In the last fight against Jay Perrin, he had like 3 or 4. No, he had 2 or 3 takedowns. And he looked very good on top. He didn't rush his strike in, even though he had dominant position. And he just took his time and took his and went with the pace and didn't tire out. And he got a dominant victory there. So I see more path to victory with Batista, but I'm going to go with the first round knockout for Batista. I think he has that knockout power. Kelleher's chin isn't the same, and I feel like Batista has all the tools to get out of the octagon quickly against Kelleher. We don't know how Kelleher is going to do moving down, but I don't think it's going to be good.
I mean, he's been successful at this division before, but the fight that I look at for Batista that I paid really close attention to was his fight with Miles John, an explosive wrestler with power. It's very similar to Brian Kelleher, and he was able to knock out Miles John in the second round
and
with a flying knee.
He likes to throw the flying knee out of nowhere, and it's very effective.
Yeah, he's quick. He's deceptively quick. This is going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, but let's move on to the next fight on the card. We got a men's matchup between Cody Durden going up against the returning JP Bays. It's going to be contested at flyweight. We got Cody Durden and JP Young Savage Bays. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This is a good matchup. JP has good wrestling with a lot of power. The same can be said about Durden. With his boxing and his kickboxing background, he's very good combinations. Both are lower volume strikers, though, since they've joined the UFC. Durden lands more takedowns, but Bays hunts for submissions more frequently and lands them. I think this is going to go all 3 rounds. A lot of people I've talked to about this fight think this may be like a second round submission or a knockout, but with the lack of volume and JP's wrestling, I think this goes all 3. So I'm going to go Cody Durden by decision. I think he picks up the decision win in this one.
Both these guys have wrestling backgrounds. Cody Durden did high school wrestling, and then you got JP Bays, who wrestled, and of course he's from Africa. He's come over, and then he's been working with Ray Shefo ever since everything that's happened with his ex-wife. He finally gets back the chance to get back into the octagon. His bread and butter is his BJJ and his wrestling. He takes you down, and then he transitions you and looks for the submissions, and then at times he ground and pounds you. He's showcased in the past. I think a lot of people look too much into doubting JP Bays because in his first 2 fights in the UFC, he got beat after actually out wrestling his opponent, and then he just got hit. And then his last one, he took a fight on 2 weeks' notice against a big time puncher, which he was dealing with the issues with his ex-wife, and then he took the fight on 2 weeks' notice on top of it. So I don't think he was there mentally. He was just taking the fight just to just to take it because he was offered it, and he put in one of his worst performances, he said, ever. But now that he's focused solely on just himself, on just training, he said he feels the best that he has. I got JP Bays by a first round submission via rear naked choke. I feel like what differentiates these guys is the submission of BJJ of JP Bays. I think Durden is more so a guy who will take you down and then just lay on top of you and then throw a little bit of strikes with him, whereas Bays hunts for the submission. He hunts the change transitions, looks over and looks for different spots so he can go for the finish. And I think with that more aggressive style, I think it's going to benefit Bays because Durden has won a lot by decision or split decision, and then he's also lost by the same way. So I feel like he's going to give up his back, and then Bays is going to capitalize and win by a first round rear naked choke.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with when it came to his last performance. It was terrible. And he'll say it too. He said it, like you said, he has said it. The thing that concerns me about JP is he hasn't fought in 9 months. He has been going through some, personal issues that could really take his mind out of the game. Every fighter, when they have a long layoff or a personal issue, say, I feel the best I've ever been. That could just be a comfort blanket for some people, just to, psych themselves up and to, defer and deflect the attention away from them so their opponent doesn't
but
think
I will
that
say
they're not there.
He has the right people in his corner, though. He has Ray Sheffo, who he says like a father to him. He tells it how it is. He is really good friends with the cyborgs. He was living with them for a while I was going through this. So he was able to kind of deal with the issues. And then he said once he did that, then it was just like, it's time for me to just move on and worry about training, because that was his number one priority, is training. And now he trains. He still trains at the same gym, but he does a lot of work outside the gym as well. So he said it's been a nice fresh air for him to do something different now. Now he's not the +1 anymore. It's the JP Bay show now.
Well, I hope that that's the route that he takes, and we really get to see him live up to that moniker of young savage, because a lot of that stuff, that mental stuff, can really get in the way. But that's not the show we're on right now.
Yeah. I want to see the JP Bays from the Dana White Contender Series, where he had multiple takedowns and then just smothered his opponent on the mat, and then finally got the submission victory.
I agree. I'd like to see him bounce back, but I'm going with Cody Durden. That's the horse I'm riding.
Okay, so we're on different sides of that, which is nice once again. But let's move on to the next matchup on the card. We have a men's bantamweight matchup between Julian Paiva going up against Sergey Morozov. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
As we were going over our notes and breaking down the fight tapes and stuff, I noticed that there's a lot of near even odds. It's almost every other fight. So when I'm putting, like, I think that this is an interesting one, or I think this could go either way, it's truly that way. And I think that this is another interesting fight and matchup with both trying to get back in the win column. I have Julian Paiva winning this one. Paiva has struggled against grapplers, but has been able to get out of bad spots and use his time standing wisely and rack up volume, whereas Morozov is going to look for subs with several takedown attempts. He's a low-volume striker and high-volume grappler. I think the time that Paiva's been working with Uriah Faber has really improved his game. Him working at Team Alpha Male has been great. I think his get-ups are improving. His takedown defense is getting better. And his stand-up's getting a little more crisper. A lot of people, go to that Bontaran fight and they're like, oh, I'm not going with him. But he did string 3 wins together, and I think he's going to get back in the win column, and I think he wins this one by another split decision. This is, I think, like 2 or 3 split decisions I have on this card.
This is a tough one because Paiva is a very good striker, but he's a slow starter. He slow starts, he stands in front of you, and he takes damage to then give it back at you. That's his style. and he's pretty good with the jiu-jitsu. He just has never had the chance to use it because he's going up against a lot of big-time strikers. But then you got Sergey Morozov, who is a good grappler. He takes you down, of course, with the grappling background. But then he has great boxing. He likes to throw the jab, the uppercut, the hook shot. And when he hits you, it hurts. Like, he did lose the last fight, but he was winning that fight, and it came on strong. It's just that his opponent had a great chin and then came back strong in the second round, where Sergey kind of put too much into it, and then he got the finish by submission in that against Sergey. And Sergey's had kind of a rough start, you would say, between the last couple fights, because he had that one, and then he got purely dominated against Umar Nurmagomedov in a grappling one. But he's not going to have to worry about the grappling here. This is going to be a stand-up battle. And I'm going to go with Sergey Morozov with this one because I just feel like his striking is better per se. It's just that he better watch out because Paiva might have a better cardio. But I think that Sergey Morozov can get him out early. But I'm still going to play the safe route and go Morozov by decision. I think he wins the first 2 rounds. He tires out, and then Paiva wins the third, but doesn't get him out. He doesn't finish him. I haven't seen much from Paiva to do that. Like, we saw the Kyle Phillips fight. Phillips dominated the first round, kind of like what Morozov did in his last fight. And then he slowed down. But Morozov still has the wrestling on his side to where he could kind of use that to his advantage. So I see Morozov surviving the fight with the decision victory over Paiva. I feel like Paiva is on the way downwards right now because he just he had the split decision against Kyle Phillips, where people thought that Phillips 10-8'd him round 1, and it should have at least been a tie at least.
Yeah, that should have been a draw.
And then he got purely just pieced up by Sugar Sean O'Malley in the last fight. So it's like, oh, what is he going to do now? Like, he could bounce back, like you said, and win. But I'm going to go with Morozov here with the better odds. He's a slight favorite at on the card at a minus 135, but it's more of a pick 'em, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, you kind of strengthened my argument of where I was going to go next. When you look at Paiva's introduction to the UFC, right? So Dana White Contender Series, he goes up against Alan Nascimento. He wins. Then he goes up against which
I think he should have lost.
Well, yeah, it was a split. That. Anybody, you could say that. But then he went up against Kai Kara France, took that to a split decision, got knocked out by Rodrigo Bontaran, who took that fight on short notice, I believe, and it was at catchweight. Then he goes up against Mark De La Rosa, wins in a knockout. Zhalgas Zhumagulov win by decision. Kyler Phillips, then Sean O'Malley. They're contenders. They're top 15 fighters. He hasn't had an easy fight since breaking into the UFC. And I'm not saying that Sergey has either, but Hollian has had tougher opponents than Sergey. So that's why I'm riding with him. I think this isn't a layup by any means, but I think that this is something that he's going to be able to.
You could be right, but then Umar Nurmagomedov is looking like a war beater right now with how he's done
the whole family.
Fights. Yeah,
whole family's a world beater.
So you could say that Morozov has had a tough challenge himself, but I would agree that Paiva has fought the better competition, and it just makes me want to praise for the future where maybe we see like a Sugar Sean against Umar Nurmagomedov fight.
Oh God, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that, man. You know where that'll go. That hype train will get derailed.
Yeah, but let's move on to the next fight. We have a men's matchup between TJ Brown against Shaylen Nordenbecky in the featherweight division. We got Downtown versus Wolverine. Jim, what are your thoughts on the fight, and then who do you have winning?
I like this matchup a lot. Brown has been on a roll, winning his last 2 fights. and is coming in against Shaylen with a 4.5-inch reach advantage, which could be a major factor in this fight. Brown is the more active striker and has good wrestling and makes the most of it. Really incorporates ground and pound while he's down there. In his 2 fights in the UFC, he's landed 6 takedowns. This is Shaylen, I'm sorry. Shaylen, in his first 2 fights in the UFC, has landed 6 takedowns and 34 strikes in 2 15-minute fights, while Brown has had the same amount of takedowns and 24 more strikes in his last fight. Singular, last fight. So he's doubling the output than Shaylen. So I have Brown winning this by decision. I think this is a unanimous decision, purely based off of control and activity.
I agree with you to a certain extent because you were saying that the takedown wise and then the strikes in his past 2, but that doesn't account for the ground and pound. That just accounts for the striking when they're standing. The ground and pound has been dramatically different for Shaylen in his last fight compared to his first couple fights in the UFC. He would just take you down. He's averaged 3 to 4 takedowns a fight, and then he'll take you down and then just kind of lay on you and then hold position. But in the last fight, he showcased a lot of his ground and pound and movement. And he's a guy that's going to control the fight a lot on the mat. That's his bread and butter, the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. He trains with Li Jiling. He trains at a gym there where it's just all those guys at a fight. He trains with Yan Xiaonan with his striking. It's improved a little bit, but he knows what his bread and butter is, which is the wrestling and the control. And then you got TJ Brown, who's a better striker, but he's primarily a wrestler too, who does ground and pound. So it's a matter of who's going to get the fight and who's going to control it. And I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to go with Shaylen here with this matchup. And I'm going to go by decision here because he's been averaging 3 to 4 minutes of control time when he gets his opponents down on the mat. And he just finds a way just to do that. And we've seen these Chinese grapplers just develop so much in the last couple of years. It's been crazy how much they've utilized that into their game plan now instead of just standing up and striking. And I feel like with the ever-grown development of him, he's gotten better. And then he is younger too, 4 years younger. So I feel like he has more room for a growth, whereas TJ Brown's at the point, I feel like, where he's not going to get better, because once you hit 33, 34, that's when you start you know what you're at now. But at 28, you can polish your game up and tweak it a little bit. And I feel like in this fight, you're going to see a little bit more tweaks from the last fight for Shaylen. And that's why I got him by decision.
Okay. I disagree that 32 is an age where you stop learning. We're both well over 32, and we're learning new things each day. And we go back to Glover Teixeira, who is in his 40s and was still performing at high level. So I don't think you never stop learning. But
Glover didn't learn anything new. Glover just went from his primary to secondary. He was a knockout artist, which he still had the wrestling, but now that he is slower with movement and he can't rely on the knockout power against some of these guys, he has to go with his wrestling now. I'm talking about like adding new pieces to your repertoire, and Glover has never done that.
But that you have to be able to learn how to rely on your plan B more than your plan A. So you're going to learn. He's only 32 is young. Let's make that clear. But also what we're overlooking here is TJ Brown has 22 fights. Shaylen has 46 fights and is 4 years younger than him. That record is crazy. He's 36-10. and he's 28 years old. That's wild. He's been fighting since he was like 7.
Well, he had 1 year where he had 10 fights that 1 year. And then what people don't know is they just look at his wrestling and they don't know that he has won over 10 fights by submission. And that's why I'm saying he has that sneaky jiu-jitsu background that he has, where he had to use too much. Because he controls the fight a lot on the mat.
Yeah, because he's got 4 pages of Tapology fight camps. It's crazy. Crazy. All right, I'm off my soapbox. 32's old. Get out of here.
I didn't say 32 is old. I just said that there's usually like that threshold where they stop developing and then they just focus on what they already know. And I feel like that's around.
I think you're focusing more on the football shows you're going to be doing soon, and thinking TJ Brown's a running back and 32 is old.
He could be. You never know. But let's move on to the next fight. Let's move on to the next fight in the prelims. This is the main event of the prelims. We got a light heavyweight matchup between Tapin and Chuck Lee going up against Carlos Urberg. We got Dadan versus the Black Jag. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Honestly, dude, I shared my thoughts with you before we went on, and I'm losing sleep over this fight because I don't know where I want to go with it. This is such a great fight, such a great matchup. I've got this circled as potential fight of the night. Both of these guys throw bombs, and they land at a high clip. 6 per minute for Tapin and 9 per minute for Ulberg. Both also have been mixing it up and getting the fight to the ground more frequently. Carlos had 2 his last fight. I believe Tapin had 3 takedowns his last fight. This one really comes down to discipline for me. Carlos has a height advantage. He's 4 inches taller. So Tapin could leave himself open for counters because he comes in so aggressive and he comes in with his head down. So he could really set himself up to lose in this one. And I've seen Tapin have a really poor performance. But then bounce back. So, and he's coming off of a loss with this one too. He had a really bad performance against Young Jong Park, and really came back against Mike Rodriguez. Whereas Ulberg's looked pretty good, and he's been increasing his game, using his kickboxing to his advantage. So I'm still split with this one, but it's time for a decision, and I'm gonna go with Carlos Ulberg. I think this could go either way, but I'm going Ulberg by decision just because of discipline.
Yeah, and then, of course, both these guys have been knocked out as well in his last fight. Tapin put off a great performance where he just out-volumed his opponent, but then in the third round, he gets knocked out in the first minute, up 2-0, and he loses the fight, and it just kills the momentum that he had. And then Carlos Urberg, 2 fights ago, was beating Kennedy and racked up over 100 strikes almost in the first round. Well, then he got tired, and then he got knocked out. But then in this last fight against Fabio Charant, he kind of paced himself. He went a little bit slower. He did a little bit less volume, still threw his leg kicks. But then, like you said, when we talked earlier, he mixed in a little bit of the grappling involved. And he was able to win that fight by decision. And it was a better overall show for him. So I think the difference in this fight, because both guys are aggressive, both guys can throw for power. Tapin's going to be more so be aggressive, moving forward, and like pouncing on his opponent, and then he's going to try and take the fight to the ground. And then if he can't, then he's just going to throw those overhand shots. Whereas Ulberg is going to take his shots. He's going to throw a lot of leg kicks. And he's averaging 20 plus leg kicks landed ever since he's joined the UFC. We all know him from city kickboxing gym. So all those guys predicate themselves on the kickboxing side of their game. But he doesn't just have kickboxing. He has grappling, he has striking, he has a little bit of Muay Thai. But I see him winning by decision here. I think the difference is going to be the volume count here. As long as he can avoid that knockout shot and then and then mitigate any takedowns, which I feel like he's been able to do with the opponents that he's had in his first couple fights, then he should be able to out-volume a tap and then pick up the easy decision victory with the high volume. It could be another one where he gets over 100, but then he spans it out over the 3 rounds instead of just going hardcore round one.
Discipline. That's what it comes down to. This is, I like the way the UFC is handling both of these fighters because they both have a ton of potential, but they need to be slowly integrated into the division as opposed to just being, we like the heavyweight division where like you get 2 knockouts and you're all the way fighting number 3 in the world. I like that they're slowly, incorporating that. And, the light heavyweight division is stacked. Such a good division.
But other than that, let's move on to the main card now. First, we got a men's middleweight matchup between Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. We got the Action Man versus the Black Belt Hunter. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This is the grappler versus the fighter, the stand-up fighter, striker matchup. We get almost every card. And I think we love talking about these matchups. I have Curtis in this one, but I think he's going to have a lot of work ahead of him. He lands at a high clip, but he's hittable, kind of like what you said previously with Paiva. He throws a high volume, but takes in a lot to get that volume. But Vieira, being a low-volume striker who is also really hittable, Curtis should be okay. What it comes down to is Vieira's takedown. He has 12 takedowns in his 4 UFC fights, but he has great BJJ. You don't get the name the Black Belt Hunter for having great stand-up. Curtis has good takedown defense and has only been submitted once, and that was by Ray Cooper III a long time ago. I think Curtis's reach advantage and Vieira's suspect striking defense sets up a second round Chris Curtis KO. And also, I'll end my little speech with Rodolfo Vieira wins nickname of the night, with Curtis being a close second with the Action Man.
Yeah, this is going to be tough because the background with Rodolfo Vieira going into the last fight was the fact that he would put so much effort into round one and taking you down and trying to submit you that he would just gas himself out. If he didn't get the first round submission, he would just lose because he just had no energy. You saw that in the Hernandez fight where he almost had Hernandez finished, but then he just gassed himself out. And then in the second, that's when Hernandez took over and was able to submit Vieira because he had nothing left in the tank. But then last fight, he was able to put off an overall great performance where he kind of managed himself. He didn't overdo it round one. He was able to pace himself, and you saw a lot of improvements in his striking game. So it adds a lot more to this matchup, especially when Chris Curtis is a big-time boxer. He utilizes the uppercut. That's his first move that he likes to engage with. And then you got the jab, and then you got the hooks that he throws in there. He has great movement. He's been in the octagon with great talent like Brendan Allen. You got Phil Hawes. He's been in there with guys that can knock you out, and he's won those fights. And just like you said, he hasn't lost since losing to Ray Cooper, in which he actually retired for 2 months, came back, and when he came back, since then he's won 8 straight fights. So
to your point, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. He's never been submitted. Ray Cooper knocked him out.
Yeah. And he's just looked so fluid. He's been kind of like the big time underdog going into every fight that people pick him because they feel like he can go in there and make them a lot of money. And he actually comes in as the minus 150 favorite. So it's going to be a little bit of a difference in the odds here for him. But I think the difference will be if he can like just last the first round, what Vieira does to him in the first round, which I think he can. I think he'll pace himself with the striking. He's still going to throw, but he's going to be more a little bit passive round one and taking shots when he gets them. And then once round 2 hits, then he's going to get aggressive on Vieira. As long as he doesn't get submitted round 1, I like Chris Curtis by round 2 knockout. in this one. I feel like he'll go aggressive round 2. He'll get the combinations going. And then with Vieira being a little bit tired, he'll be able to knock him out because we've seen it in the past. Like I said, Vieira has the gas tank issues. And even with the great performance last time, he didn't fight a guy of the striking caliber as Curtis. And
You're right.
now he has to deal with the boxing of him. But then again, just like that, Curtis has to deal with the grappling of him. But I feel like having fought Brendan Allen, I feel like that was a nice teaser for him for this one because this guy's very aggressive and he likes to just swarm on you and hold you down. So this is going to be an interesting fight for the first round, but I got Curtis by knockout round 2.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis does a lot of work in the later rounds. He has one first round knockout to his name, and that's really what brought him onto the radar for most UFC fans, and that was when he knocked out Phil Hawes at Usman and Covington too, which we all remember as like a wild knockout.
Yeah. But other than that, let's move on to the next fight. On the main card, we got a bantamweight matchup between Umar Nurmagomedov going up against Nate Mayhem Menez. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Well, we got Nate, who's a former guest of the show, right? And there's a rule that we're supposed to usually go with him, but I'm not going with him in this one. I'm sorry, Nate. The first thing I think about this fight is that the odds are completely disrespectful. Nate is such a heavy underdog coming in at 14-1, which is wild. But
he's plus 500, whereas Umar is minus 700.
Yeah, well, right now Umar's minus 770, which is it's out of control. But anyway, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what we're going to say about this fight. Whenever you have a Nurmagomedov, we know what the outcome will be. There's going to be a lot of wrestling. There's going to be a lot of smothering. There's going to be a lot of combat sambo. I have Umar winning this fight, like most people do, like Vegas does. I'm pretty sure like you do. But I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy fight. Nate has power in his hands. He's got good grappling, and he's durable. He's a former guest on the show. Go back and check out that interview. But the problem is he hasn't fought a grappler like Umar. So I think just the Nurmagomedov camp goes 2-0 this fight card, and I have Umar Nurmagomedov winning by second round submission. I'm going to go over your naked choke.
He has fought a grappler in Tony Gravely, but Gravely dominated him round 1, almost knocked him out. He knocked him down. He got kind of saved by the cage and kept him up. But then it was an infamous fight where Nate Menez broke his jaw, and then wound up coming in the second round and won that fight against Gravely. Gravely got tired, and then Menez took over and just finished him in round 2.
But Gravely is not a grappler like Omar.
But Nate Menez has the tenacity, he has the striking, he has the movement to combat Umar. It's just that the one thing that Umar does that stands him out over all of his other cousins and everything else is his leg kicks. We all know that they have the sambo and the grappling and the jiu-jitsu where they can transition to whatever submission that they can find on the mat. It's the fact that his leg kicks are like a lethal weapon for him. His striking, his hands have been developing, and Khabib has says once he gets the hands to the level of his legs, he's going to be one of the best fighters ever because of how great his legs are. He throws the front kick a lot. He throws the calf kick. He likes to throw to the face. And then he has the question mark kick where it kind of like he throws it forward, but it's in like a circular motion where he can throw it out of nowhere, and it confuses the hell out of me. But it's very effective. His leg kicks are very effective. He showcased that last fight against Brian Callahan, where he used all 3 different style of kicks in that fight to set up those grappling tendencies along the cage because he gets his opponent to back up. But then he lands shots at the same time. And then it's not just a leg kick, it's a snapping leg kick. So it's like a good entryway into grappling. but how I see this is just like I just said, he's going to use the leg kicks early and often. He's going to push Nate Menez backwards. He's then going to rush him along the cage, get him down, and then I see this as a first round submission for Umar Nurmagomedov via rear naked choke. That's his go-to move. I think that he's just going to be able to force his will on Nate Menez, even with Nate Menez being as good as he is. But Umar Nurmagomedov is going to dominate the fight and then win by first round submission.
All right, so we're same win, just different round, same method as well.
Yeah. But let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We got a men's lightweight matchup between Thiago Moises versus Christos Giagos. This is going to be contested, of course, at lightweight. We got Thiago, and then we got Christos Spartan Giagos. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is another good matchup. Both are low-volume strikers, but if it comes down to standing and trading, they've been there. They've gone to war and they're willing to stand and trade. This one comes down to who is going to control the fight the longest and can gain the most ground control, in my opinion. Giagos has 21 takedowns in his last 5 fights, while Moises has only been taken down 5 times while only landing 3 of his own. Moises has great BJJ, and I'm curious to see if Giago tests that. But if he does and lands a high volume of takedowns, I see him winning this one, but he has to avoid putting himself in the bad positions. And again, this is another tough one. But I'm going to go with Giagos by decision. I'm going to go with the underdog in this one.
Yeah, and if you look at the odds right now, the odds show on here that Christos is the plus 195 underdog, and then Thiago Moises is the minus 240, which is very shocking for me because Moises has been hovering around the top 15 for a while. I think he's outside it now, or if he's not, then he's in that 13 to 15 range. I'll have to look at it later, but he's a world-class BJJ artist. He usually has low volume. He tries to get a couple of takedowns, but he tries to get the fight into his realm. He wins those dirty decisions, split decisions, whereas Christos Giagos is a wrestler. He tries to take you down, and he tries to ground and pound you. His striking has been a little bit improving. And one thing to note, both these guys got knocked out in the last fight. Armand Sarukian demolished Christos last fight. And then Joel Alvarez went and knocked out Moises before he got knocked out by Armand Sarukian by elbow. So that's something to keep track of. But I think the difference here is going to be the wrestling of Giagos in this matchup. You said it yourself. When he wrestles and he's effective with it, he can get 3, 4, 5, 6 takedowns on his opponent. And Moises has been a guy who just tries to defend. He's more of a defense guy than he is a offensive guy. We've seen that. Like, he took Islam Makhachev to 4 rounds, and he was able to limit kind of the grappling that was happening. He still got taken down, but he limited a lot of what we've seen offensively from Islam. It's just that Islam was able to break the will of Moises late and pick up the submission in that 4th round. I see Christos Giagos winning by, I'm going to go 3rd round ground and pound here because nice. I feel like he's going to be the stronger fighter going in. I feel like he should be on the way up now. Like, I can't use the last fight, of course, against him because it was against a guy in the main event. But he did beat Sean Soriano by submission. He won by decision. He did lose to Jakal Close, and then he beat Damir Hashovich. He's had 3 losses in the UFC, all against top 10 lightweight fighters. So it's not like his losses are 2 guys that are not good. They're 2 top 10 talent. And then he beats guys that he should beat. So
yeah,
I feel like with Thiago Moises on the way down, because he's been struggling the last 4 or 5 fights, I'm going with like I said, Christos Giagos pulling off the upset with the third round ground and pound victory.
All right, so we're both with Christos. To your point, Tiago is out of the top 15 in lightweight.
Yeah.
Just wanted
Yeah,
to
I figured he was in there, he was out, then they put him back in, and then now he's back out now. But like
Diego Vieira is the 15th fighter.
Yeah. But other than that, let's move on to the next fight. On the main card, we got a heavyweight battle between Josh Perezian versus Alain Bordeaux. We got Josh versus Alan, the Black Samurai Bordeaux. What are your thoughts on this heavyweight matchup, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is another fight that can go either way, in my opinion. Both have losses to a common opponent in Parker Porter, and both are coming off a loss. What stands out about this fight is that if you go back to both of their fights with Parker Porter, Perezian was more active and threw over 100 strikes, where Bordeaux threw in the 30s. Bordeaux does have the judo and Muay Thai background, and I believe he trains with Sarukian still over in Paris.
Yes.
And has a bunch of knockout wins. But in his UFC career, he has been a low volume striker, which is why I have Perezian winning this fight. I think Josh Perezian gets it done. I see Perezian being the more active fighter, racking up enough volume and cage control to win by decision.
And if you look at the odds, they're both minus 110. So this is a true pick 'em, because they really don't know where to go with this one. But to piggyback off what you said, he is training with Sarukian in Paris, but then he also goes back to Japan, and then he trains over there. That's where he learned how to train. He started training in Paris because he lost his work visa, but then he got it back. So he goes back and forth between Japan and Paris to train for his fights. But he's the guy that comes in there. They both have a common opponent in Parker Porter, where Parker Porter beat them both by decision. But Parker Porter was beating him in the first 2 rounds, but then round 3, Alain Bordeaux looked very strong with his striking. He started to get going, and as Porter started to slow down. Josh Perezian is a guy, I probably butchered his last name, but he's the guy that throws hard and he can knock you out, but he gets tired a little bit earlier than that. He usually gets tired first or second round. That's been an issue for him, but he has knockout power. He has good skills. He moves forward. He loves to utilize that back fist a lot. That's been his go-to move in every fight. And he gave Parker Porter all that he could handle. He had over 100 strikes in that fight. He just barely lost by decision there due to the last round. But I'm going to go with Josh in this one by first-round knockout. I believe he gets the knockout because I feel like if he doesn't knock him out in the first round, then I think Alain Bordeaux wins by decision because he has the better cardio. But I think that his chin's not as good. I thought he was going to get slept by Porter, but then Porter kind of slowed down and utilized his wrestling more than he did his striking, whereas Josh is going to utilize the striking. He's going to throw those overhand shots, push you up against the cage, and just start landing bombs on you. That's what he does. He's not as skilled of a guy, but he has that knockout power. So I'm going to go with him by first-round knockout.
Yeah, Prision also has a ton more experience, both amateur and pro, than Bordeaux, and also has sneaky grappling. He has 2 submission wins up to his name right now.
Yep. Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. This is one of my favorite fights on the card. We got a top 15 welterweight matchup between Neil Magny going up against Shavkat Rakhonov. This is the Haitian Sensation versus the Nomad. What are your thoughts on this fight, Jim? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is, again, like you said, this is a really good matchup. And in my mind, it's a really good litmus test for Rakhonov. Magny is the vet who has been kind of pushed into this gatekeeper role despite being on a 2-fight win streak. But like we talk about in every Neil Magny breakdown, he can be very streaky. He gets to the point where he pieces some fights together. He's looking really good and dominant, and then he drops one or two, and he's on the 2-fight win streak. He's 4 out of 5 wins and 4 wins in his last 5. But he's going up against somebody who's undefeated, like Rakhmonov, who is good on his feet, has speed and power. He has good grappling and submission skills. This is a tough matchup for Magny, in my opinion, despite the odds being in his favor. What I'm curious to see is how Rakhmonov handles his toughest opponent and toughest task to date. We've seen fighters who have been on a tear lose to Magny, like Max Griffin, Jeff Neal, and Rakhmonov coming in undefeated and giving up a reach and experience advantage to Magny could be the difference maker. But I actually think Rakhmonov is going to be calm and calculated in this fight, and I'm going with him to win. So give me the underdog Shavkat Rakhmonov by decision win over the Haitian sensation Neil Magny.
Yeah, and if you look at the odds right now, Neil Magny is the plus 290 underdog, whereas Shavkat is the minus 380 favorite. So the line is leaning heavily on Shavkat here with the potential here, because he's only fought 3 times in the UFC, and he's already broken the top 15. He's at that 15 spot right now. For now, I felt like Neil Magny he got the generous split decision victory over Max Griffin. He got knocked down in the first round, and then I felt like Griffin won the second, and then Neil Magny used his grapple later on in the fight to kind of persuade the judges that he won, because he was able to grapple. That's been a statement of his. He can stand there and strike with you, but then he can chain wrestle as well. He can use that long body length to his advantage to take his opponents down and to use his BJJ, or just smother you on the ground and pound you. He has fought almost over 20 times in the UFC. He's one of the longest tenured fighters, but just like you said, when he starts to get momentum, it usually gets killed by a guy like this with a lot of potential. Yep. It's like Neil Magny is like the gatekeeper of the welterweight division, where he like always goes up, then he goes back down. You think he's done, but then he comes back up, rejuvenates himself just to lose to a guy like this again. And what I like about Shavkat is the fact that he has that knockout power. He has that. Usually he has the length and reach, which Magny actually has the reach advantage here.
Yep.
But he hits you with those crazy leg kicks. He pushes forward. He knows how to grapple up with you, and he just comes at you. He's very aggressive, and he can pour in a good bit of volume in his fights, like he's shown. He's shown he can win a decision, and then he's shown that he can knock you out, and then he's shown that he can also submit you. I got Shavkat winning this one by decision here. I feel like Magny's a tough SOB. I feel like he gets knocked down, recovers. He keeps on coming at Shavkat. He might even take down Shavkat once or twice, but I have Shavkat winning by poor volume. I just think his striking is on another level compared to Neil Magny. But like, if you feel like Magny's gonna win, if you feel like that we should be betting on him instead of Shavkat, I might even think about, just to hedge myself, I might go and put a little bit on Neil Magny. Not a lot, maybe just a half a unit, just in case he wins. And then, because I feel like he could win by decision, and with the odds, you can probably get it close to plus 500 or 600 odds on Magny. And then just to sprinkle a little bit on it, just in case he pulls off the upset, and then you can get a good winnings off of that.
Yeah, I mean, Magny has stopped the hype before. He could do it again.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I'm on Shavkat here. This is a guy that I see that can move on. He's on the same hype level as another guy that is in the top 5 now, who is of the same variety, and we've seen how he has done since in his last fight against Gilbert Burns. So I see this guy making a slower move up, but like I'm hoping that he can break that top 5, because seeing this guy against some of that talent, it's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, it really is. He needs to have the personality of Shemaev. I think
Yeah,
Shemaev's personality got not only he's skilled for sure, but I think the persona of Shemaev got him to get those fights.
yeah.
Shavkat's quiet guy, keeps to himself, doesn't trash talk. So I think he needs to
But
kind of
I think it might
sell
work
himself.
out. Yeah, but I think it might work out better for him because he's slowly moving up. He's not going to
Yeah,
just shoot from like 10 to like 2. He might shoot from 15 to 10 to then 6 to then 3, and he's going
yeah,
to fight that talent, and it might work out better for him if they wound up fighting each other somewhere down the line,
absolutely.
which would be a banger of a fight. But I do like his skills here. He just has a knack for getting the finish. It's just that
Yeah,
I think Neil Magny can force him to not finish him.
yeah. He's one of my new favorite fighters. I like watching him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's move on to the main event of the evening. Like I said, we got a top 10 lightweight matchup between Armand Sarukian versus Matus Gamrot. We got Helkalikis versus the Gamer. Try saying that nickname 3 times fast, because I can't. But we got Sarukian versus Gamra. Jim, what are your thoughts on this main event? And then who do you have winning?
Well, I can't say it one time, so I definitely can't say it 3 times. But this is a great matchup between two explosive fighters. Both are riding win streaks and are looking to take the next step towards being title contenders. They're right outside of the top 10 right now. They're 11 and 12. Both have a ton of power with 14 KO wins between the two of them and really good ground games with 12 submission wins between the two of them. This is a very interesting fight based off of both having a wrestling background, but what separates these two from traditional wrestlers is their stand up and their power. They both have worked on their stand up and their Muay Thai to a point that they're dangerous in all facets and all aspects of the fight. I think this one comes down to control time and who can land more takedowns and do more with them. At this point in their careers, Gamrot averages more takedowns, but Sarukian's fight with Matt Frivola, he landed 10 takedowns and was dominant in that fight. I don't think that happens in this fight because Gamrot has really good takedown defense, but I do see each of them landing a takedown or two and forcing this fight to stay standing and become a battle on the feet. So with all that being said, if this stays standing, I have Armand Sarukian winning by decision.
Yeah, he showcased his stand-up strike in the past couple fights against Joel Alvarez as one of them, and then in the fight before that, Christoph Giagos, and of course you said Frivola, Davi Ramos, and then Olivier Uban Mercier, who's having a great showing in PFL right now. But on
Killing
the
it
other
over
side,
there.
yeah, well, on the other side, Gamrot KO'd Ferreira. He beat Holtzman, Stevens. He lost to Guram, and then he beat Zolkowski. Both of these guys are grappling expertise. You got the takedowns with Oman, and you got the wrestling with Gamrot. They both do a little bit differently, but the same way. Gamrot is better with the submissions. He's better. You saw that against Jeremy Stevens. He was able to lock in the Kimura 1 minute into the fight and then get the submission. He tends to go for the takedown and then look for those submission entries, whereas Sarukian goes for the takedown and then looks for the ground and pound. But then he's been developing that striking game on top of it, so it's made him a more polished opponent. And then we all remember him in his first fight in the UFC. He fought Islam Makhachev. It was his only loss. He was taken down 4 times, but he was able to have a great fight with Islam. Now, it's probably Islam's most tested fight, where Islam got taken down twice, and then Sarukian actually outstruck him between the significant and the striking. It's just that Islam was able to outstrike him on the feet because he was controlling him a little bit more. So I do feel like Armand could take down Gamrot several times because of that fight, because he knows he's fought the best grappler in the division and was able to take him down twice still. And I think Islam is on another level compared to Gamrot. I feel like Armand is on the revenge tour to get that rematch down the line against Islam. He's even talked about it. He was like, at one point, Bobby Green was offered the fight, when what's his name fell through against Islam, Benil Dariush, where he fell through, they actually gave the fight to Sarukian, and he said, I don't want to take it because I want to be 110% fully invested in the training for this match. This is the match that I want, but I need to have a full fight camp for this. I'm not taking this on a week's notice. So he declined it. I see Armand Sarukian win this one by decision here. I want to say ground and pound, but I think Gamrot is going to be a tough out. I believe it's going to be a back and forth grappling affair. I just think that Sarukian's striking, standing up, is going to be the difference here. He's going to be able to out-volume him. Both of these guys might be able to take each other down a couple of times. This fight might take place a lot on the mat. It might be 90% on the mat. But then because of that, it could be a stand-up battle too. And that's why I'm favoring Sarukian here, the favorite. So I got him winning by unanimous decision.
Yes, just think about that for a second. Your entry into the UFC is against Islam Makhachev. That's a crazy fight where he did look very good. So I'm looking forward to that rematch. I was curious to see where you were. I thought you were going to go with Gamer in this one. But, Sarukian's the horse to ride in the battle.
Yep. But that'll wrap things up with that portion of the video. As you know, we always end it with my bets for the week. What I'm leaning towards here now, like I'm bringing up the odds to give you guys more of a showcase of what the odds are right now, as of now. I'm not going to pick anything from the main event and the co-main event because I don't like the big odds there for who I picked. I'm likely going to go with one parlay and 2 or 3 singles picks here. I'm going to go with Chris Curtis inside the distance. He is minus 150 at the time money line, but I feel like he's going to get the knockout inside the distance. But because I'm going inside the distance, it can cover a knockout and a sub. We never know with Curtis. Curtis could wind up subbing him. It's long odds, but I'm just covering my bases. So I'm going to go with Chris Curtis inside the distance as my first one. My next one is going to be likely I'm going to go with, let's go with Sergey Morozov. I'm going to go with him just the money line. He's a small favorite, minus 135. That was a tough fight to pick, but I feel like his volume is going to do the difference in what I needed to do. I got a parlay that I'm going to go with. I'm actually going to go with a 3-fighter parlay here. It should be 2, but I'm using the 2 fighters to balance out the third. I'm going with Umar Nurmagomedov because I feel like he is almost a lock to win here. I'm going to go with him. I'm going to pair him up with Christos Giagos, who is 195. And I'm going to also pair him with Vanessa Donopoulos at plus 225. With those odds, it will be able to knock him down quite a bit from that minus 700. And they'll be able to bounce it out to a great odds for a 3-fighter parlay, though. So that is Christos Donopoulos and Umar Nurmagomedov. And then lastly, I am going to go with Mario Batista here. I feel very confident with him. I'm going to go with him minus 155. And you know what? I'm going to go with him inside the distance as well. I feel like he'll be able to get the finish there. And with the inside the distance, it'll make it plus odds for him. So once again, I'm going with Mario Batista inside the distance. I am going with the 3-fighter parlay in Christos Giagos, Vanessa Donopoulos, and Umar Nurmagomedov. And then going with the action man, Chris Curtis, inside the distance. So there's my betting odds for you for UFC Vegas 58. So I'm going to put them in the comment section when I upload the video. So let me know what you think of those betting odds. Those are my early betting odds. I might change them down the line, close to the fight, depending on the weigh-ins and if any fight gets dropped in between now and then. But more than likely, that's what I'm going with. So give me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think of the bets. And give me your bets on who you think is going to win. Give me your options, and then I'll see what they are, and then I'll give you my opinions of it. But other than that, that'll wrap things up with today's show. I thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, if you haven't done so already, follow and subscribe to us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel down below. And then please smash the like button and then comment on this video. But we will be back next week for another edition of Cage My IQ, where we do a 4-card breakdown plus betting odds for UFC 276, which is going to be live on pay-per-view from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to have 2 title fights, and it's going to be a banger of a pay-per-view. But as always, I'm your host, Cage. This is my co-host, Jim. And thank you guys for tuning in. But have a nice week. See you guys later.